I think there's a lot going on here that it's sort of dividing also the MAGA base on this. You know, we saw them carrying the pitchforks for so long about the Epstein conspiracy and the Epstein Files and the client list. And this was a really big deal, a huge rallying cry for the base. I actually think that Trump overestimates his ability to just tamp this down and make it go away. I think it's clear that he has decided, his administration has decided that the best course of action is to try to immediately go on offense and to try to launch a distraction campaign. And we've seen that twofold, right? We launch a lawsuit, call this fake news. This latest story, in fact, that the Journal published, you know, saying that Pam Bondi told Donald Trump that he is in fact on the in the Epstein Files. The response was that this is a fake news story. So it's like the same old playbook, but then you add the lawsuit into it, and then you add a distraction campaign. And we've seen Donald Trump's DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, come out and launch this really, incredible and hysterical attack on Barack Obama and his administration, claiming that back in 2016 that Obama and his, highest level staff concocted this conspiracy to frame the Russia investigation into Donald Trump as a massive hoax, a conspiracy to confuse the public and to destroy Donald Trump's chances of winning. Obviously, he won the presidency in 2016. Members of his own administration and members of the MAGA media, including Sean Hannity, later went on to say, we know that Russia tried to meddle in the election. These were settled issues, and now they're being resurfaced with really strong hyperbole to reignite the base. And we're seeing Fox really take this bait. Media Matters ran a study this week where they looked at the number of mentions on the air. Fox News mentioned Obama more than 3 times as much as Epstein, which comes after, of course, Donald Trump called his allies and said, hey, let's stop talking about this Epstein thing. Like, I really want this thing to go away. And we've now seen Congress recess early to go away for the entire summer until September. Another just astonishing thing. And why are they doing that? For one reason only, to not have to vote to release the Epstein files. And this thing it feels like it has the ability to overwhelm his administration in that it's not going to go away. And every day now we learn more and more about his connection. And he should have known this. He allegedly wrote this card to Jeffrey Epstein. He had Epstein over to his Mar-a-Lago resort and partied with young girls together, according to the New York Times. And the two of them, they've done all this stuff. And yet, in order to get back into the presidency, along with his allies who he's appointed, they continued to push this. And now he's stuck in this position of, what am I going to do now? Now I have to turn the volume down and say it's a hoax.
I will dissent from you slightly here. I do think this is going to blow over because it seems like, from my observations, MAGA media is sort of moving on in some ways. The initial thing was all about MAGA media applying pressure to release the files. Then it becomes clear that Donald Trump's in the files. And yes, some people have commented on that and noted this. But if Barack Obama were in the files, let's just say that, he would be being called a pedophile left and right by Fox News and the MAGA media people. He'd be called the worst things: sick, pedophile, evil, should be thrown in jail, et cetera, et cetera. With Donald Trump, you're not really seeing that. Even amongst the people who were calling for the Epstein files to be released, you're not seeing them call Donald Trump a pedophile or any of that similar language that would happen if Barack Obama's name were in the files and this were related to him. And so I think that the MAGA base, the MAGA media apparatus, is still giving Donald Trump quite a benefit of the doubt. And notably, Fox News, which was on the Epstein story, you had Jesse Waters even come out and say, no one believes the reason you're not releasing the files. They have completely pivoted. They've decided to run with Donald Trump's ridiculously absurd narrative about Barack Obama. And I was watching last night, and it was like all of it was like Obama cooked up Russiagate, and this is a historic moment. I was watching Ted Cruz saying this is a day that will live in infamy like Pearl Harbor. I mean, what an insult to everyone who died at Pearl Harbor. And he said that, I think, on Laura Ingram's show. And so they have moved on, I think, by and large. Fox News is covering for him. A lot of the MAGA base that was really about releasing the files, you're not seeing them target Donald Trump with the same level of attacks or the same questions they would have for a Democrat. And so I tend to think that while this has been a very bad moment for Donald Trump, he will be fine in the end. And I think 6 months from now, this will have blown over. But it was just, I think it was more, I think the damage has really been in establishing rifts in his administration, where it's clear now that Dan Bongino and Donald Trump probably don't have the best relationship anymore. Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Bongino are obviously not on the best ground. It's really exposed these right-wing talkers like Dan Bongino and Kash Patel. And, I guess to some extent Pam Bondi, because she was kind of like a television personality appearing so much on TV. It's exposed them as frauds. They obviously don't care about releasing the Epstein files if it hurts their guy. And I think it's going to be more difficult for someone like Bongino maybe to have any credibility as a podcast host later with this audience. But I just tend to think that like the pivot you're seeing in the way MAGA media has talked about this is telling and indicates this is going to be swept under the rug as all other Donald Trump scandals are.
I don't know. I actually think
that universe. I mean, everyone else
I think that we're maybe in a temporary phase. The problem, I think, is that MAGA media, the far right, have been taught for so long to distrust the mainstream media. So now that mainstream media, with the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, CNN, are reporting this really important information of what is in these files, now you see them reach this sort of fork in the road of like, oh, great. Now we have this reporting, but it's coming from mainstream outlets. We know we can't trust the mainstream outlets. So therefore, is this real? Is this not real?
But if this came, outlets reporting that Barack Obama's name was in there, they would be all about believing CNN and the New York Times. But because it's Donald Trump's name in there, they don't want to believe it. And so I think
so they can frame it as a political hatchet job. And so that's basically what they're doing here. But I think that I think that like this runs so deep, it is so foundational to the core MAGA belief of there are elite pedophiles, the idea of QAnon, that Jeffrey Epstein played a role in it, that there is protection now. I think Donald Trump is getting wrapped up in this idea that he is a part of the deep state. And the base is right now currently absorbing this idea, and his highest level media supporters on the Daily Wire and these podcasts and Benny Johnson, all of them are facing this decision right now of like, how do I balance this? I whipped this up and now we're just supposed to pretend it doesn't exist?
But the way they're going to balance it, they have two choices before them, right? Either you're going after Donald Trump because his name is in the Epstein files, or you're going to find a way to sweep this under the rug and move on and distract with something else. And Donald Trump has given them a brand new shiny object where Obama is apparently guilty of treason. And, he's retweeted that video or reposted that video about Barack Obama being arrested. And it was an AI-generated video. And anyway, so that's the fork in the road. And I'm saying, I don't know if you're saying something different. I'm seeing them all take the bait and move on with the shiny object. It's almost like an off-ramp for them. And Donald Trump gave it to them. And I think that's where they're going to go. I don't really think that they're going to target. I don't think you're going to see Benny Johnson or Sean Hannity or Jesse Waters or any of these people go after President Trump and say, why are you in the Epstein files? Are you a pedophile? Like they would with anyone else. I think that they're going to just move on, and the House is going to recess. It's going to relieve a little more pressure, and it's still the summer. And I just cannot imagine in 6 months that this is a major core issue for the base. I think they'll end up rallying behind Donald Trump. And because at the end of the day, none of these people have the fortitude to take on Donald Trump. They're all cowards and they're all propagandists. And what do propagandists and cowards do? They take orders from the guy they serve, and that's Donald Trump, and he's giving them orders. And I think they're going to take it.
Yeah, I
And they are
don't
taking it. I
entirely.
don't think they're taking it. They are actively taking it. So
Yeah, one of the funniest lines in this latest journal story on Trump and Epstein is about Dan Bongino himself, I'll read it for you. It says, Bongino has told colleagues that his association with the administration's decision to keep the files private has eroded his credibility among the base of support that fueled his rise as a successful podcaster and media personality on the right, according to a person familiar. Incredible, right? And this is where I think that these podcasters, these right-wing influencers, they could say, look, we're reading these reports. We don't trust the mainstream media. If the New York Times reports it, New York Slimes, we're not going to trust it. If that hack Rupert Murdoch, who Trump is now suing, is reporting this in his mouthpiece paper in the Journal, we're not going to buy it. But what actually solves this whole problem is just releasing the files. So just release the files and let us just let the chips fall where they may. Why would that scenario be one where if you're Benny Johnson, and I've seen Matt Walsh, who is a very far right guy at the Daily Wire, he's even tweeted that they are trying to distract us with this, with Tulsi Gabbard's comments about Obama. I think that there is an uncontrolled MAGA media base out there that is distinct from Fox, which really takes its marching orders just straight from the White House. We know Hannity and co. are on the phone with Donald Trump. I won't be surprised at all if night after night we have these Looney Tunes caricatures of Obama as a graphic over their shoulder and mocking him repeatedly. I won't be surprised by that at all. But there is an online base that is a different group of media influencers who speak directly to MAGA world. And I think that's not going to go away. And we've now seen that, I think it was the House that voted to subpoena Ghislaine Maxwell. This is, that was Jeffrey Epstein's, right-hand woman in all of this, to subpoena her for testimony, to talk to her. That also suggests that there is a news cycle to come. What is she going to say? Or are they going to offer her a deal? The top of the Drudge Report for days now has been floating this idea of her getting a pardon to make this all go away. I see that they're working in overtime right now to deflect and defend between the White House and Fox. That's sort of confluence that has continued to be there for years now, of that symbiotic relationship of scratching each other's back. I feel like this is going to keep dripping out. Do we think this is the last big story from the Journal? Maybe we get a photo of this card, this birthday card. It certainly exists somewhere. There's also certainly people within the administration who are talking to reporters, either in a U.S. attorney's office or within the DOJ, who have had access to this. It's not an accident that this has come out, or it's Ghislaine Maxwell's attorneys. Who knows with the sourcing. But my view is that they're going to try to sweep this under the rug, but unsuccessfully, because ultimately, and going back to this Bongino line, they are out to protect themselves. Their credibility now is being destroyed. And Bongino telling his colleagues that he is now really upset because this has wrecked his credibility, I think speaks volumes about who they may be looking out to protect.
I generally agree with that they're out to protect themselves, but I think that Donald Trump has given them an off-ramp, and I think they're going to take it. And I think it's notable Fox News has stopped covering this. So I think this is now more a conventional scandal story for Donald Trump, where CNN and MSNBC and the New York Times and every mainstream outlet is covering this nonstop. And right-wing media is doing something totally different and on the offense against, a Democrat with a made-up conspiracy theory. And it just seems to me like that's the road they're going to go down. I have a hard time thinking that Fox is going to pivot. I have a hard time thinking that Benny Johnson's going to start going after Donald Trump directly. I just don't think that's the way it's going to work.
You're right. You're definitely right about that. But I just think there's an uncontrolled
But it was easier when it was like, why aren't you releasing the Epstein Files? We want to see the Epstein Files. Now that they know, because they all believe the reporting, it's not like they don't believe it. They all believe and know that Donald Trump's probably in there and has a relationship with Epstein, and it's not going to be good for him. They are now quiet because none of these people like to go directly against him in a meaningful way. And maybe that will change. I just don't think it will. There are certainly going to be outliers, and I think he's certainly lost a few of his supporters. I don't question that. And I think some of his big supporters, maybe Candace Owens, someone like her, has clearly turned on Donald Trump and said she's embarrassed that she had told people to vote for him and all that. And there's people like her out there, but I think the majority of the MAGA media universe is going to back him, and I guess we'll see in a few months. Thank you for watching Power Lines. For more analysis and insight, subscribe to our YouTube channel down below, like this video, and you can watch more of us right over here.